You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. If you're good-looking, you're always looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Notice I didn't say the ambassador of joy. The ambassador of joy, and you tuned in consciously and conscientiously for one reason only, and it's the best reason in the whole world, because you care the most in the entire world about you, Y-O-U, and that's great, by the way, because when you become the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony, you create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. You are going to experience today a man who I am privileged and honored to call friend. Met him personally a number of times over the years, and he's going to enable you to expand your consciousness and your heart and really make a difference in the world. He's a madman. Now, I say that with a big smile because, you tuned into this show because we talk about the three fundamentals of life. And when you use these three fundamentals, the result is you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? The first fundamental is, number one, your life has purpose. You lead a purpose-driven life, you go mad. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. That's the second thing. You lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. The third is to uncover the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example, right now this show is carried over the internet, and we're touching over 528,000 people at this very moment. And I am honored and humbled. Thank you so much. You tell your family and friends, sign up, come in and listen and share. Share this. We want you to share with at least 5 people. You want to share with 50 or 100? That's great. At least 5. That way we touch over 2.5 million people. And this show especially today, because you're going to be Dumisani Washington, one of the great expositors of real life that you'll ever have a chance listening to. He'll be on just a few minutes. So again, we talk about what's going on with this show is carried over the internet. Ask anybody, what does WWW stand for? Invariably, they'll tell you it has to do with the internet. Factually speaking, they're correct. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, WWW stands for what a wonderful world. And what is the word, right? WHATA. And of course, a tip of the hat and a big thank you to Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral and touch not just tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet. Whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, what do you do right away? You can't help but you smile. Now, SMILE is a wonderful acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. That's right, seeing miracles in life every day. Let me tell you a quick story. It's about me. Imagine, if you can, I'm standing up in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. In the evening, I'm in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed from my neck down. And it was not because of an automobile accident. It wasn't a spinal injury. It was a rare disease, took over my body and rendered me what's called quadriplegic. Nothing in my body moved. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't move. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. I had braces on both my legs, my hips, my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. All because of one word. What's this word? Smile. I got to tell you a quick story. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks later. She says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile, S-M-I-E-L? I thought about it. Smile, it sounds the same. Why not? I asked her, how come? She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. What was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a fabulous acronym that stands for causing rethinking. We're going to do a lot of that today. Causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And the key here is understanding that it's a small shift in perspective. Now, I've been working with people for personal development for more than 4.5 decades. And I can tell you this, 97.2% of all the people that come to me initially, on paper, they're doing great. And yet when we get to dig into their lives, they drop the F and shift. And the other stuff happens. You're going to be effing careful with your F's. You want to shift your perspective just a little bit. And then you'll be able to utilize the 6 most important words you'll ever learn. And these are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation will determine your path in life and your trajectory. Now, before we bring on wonderful, amazing Pastor Dumisani, I just want to mention to everybody that I do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word, and even in front of a pastor. However, I just want you to understand, the 4-letter words that we use, of course, because we live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, play, free, gift, swim. And the 4-letter FU word is fun. That's right. FU, capital N, capital N. So some people raise their hand and say, Barry sure, Barry sure. Fun's only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world. The world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant spelled 4 letters. FU. Capital N, capital N. So after the show, point your finger at your friends and family, smile in your face, twinkle in your eye, and say, F you, everybody. You got their attention. Now add right away, capital N, capital N. What are you talking about? Wait till I tell you what I learned today. And what you're about to learn is going to shift your perspective. So before we bring on wonderful Dumisani, I just want to urge everybody to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life, and you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier. These 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. Kind is a fabulous word that stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody on the planet that inspires noble deeds that I want to share with you more than a wonderful, amazing, fabulous Dumisani Washington. Dumisani, please say hello to 529,717 people in the world.
Hello, everyone. Barry's great to be with you, and hello, everybody out there watching and listening to us now.
Woo! So those of you who are watching, you have a treat because you're seeing a radiant being inside and out. He is true to what he is. He's a truth fighter. He was a warrior. We're going to talk about that a lot today, about being a happy warrior, as it would. And but I'm just going to jump right and tell you, if I started telling you all of the things that Dumisani has accomplished in his life, take the rest of the show. I'm going to give you 3 data points. Number 1, he's the founder and CEO of what we call IBSI. And he'll tell you what that stands for in just a moment. And it's a very important organization. Number 2, and this is really something, he's a host of a radio show, and it's called Truth to Power, because that's what he does. He lives with truth. And the thing that I love most about him is married for more than 3 decades to the same woman, 6 children, all of whom are accomplished, and grandchildren. He is real. He's the essence of what happens when you lead a purpose-driven life. So Dumisani, with that great introduction, I welcome you as a friend, and I say to you, let's just jump right in and start with the elephant in the room. And it's a big one. What is IBSI, and why should anybody care?
Barry, Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel is IBSI, Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. I'm the founder and the CEO. Started it back in 2013. Now, how many years ago is that? 13 years ago, something like that, a while ago, almost 13 years ago. And I started it, as you know, after my first trip to Israel, which was December of 2012. I was a member of the African American Pastors Tour with Christians United for Israel. I went on to serve with CUFI, CUFI, all these acronyms, right? Back in the day, I did it for about 7 years. But at the time, I was not on staff. I was just a Christian pastor from Northern California, Stockton, California. pastoring the Congregation of Zion there in Stockton, and had never been to Israel, always wanted to go. And I had the opportunity to go. And among many things that happened during that time, Hanukkah of 2012, I was at the Western Wall praying, and yep, Hanukkah, just like now, 13 years later, 12 years later, same season around this time, I was in Israel, and God just placed in my heart to do the work that we started there later on in 2013.
Let's unpack a couple of things here, because again, we have a wonderful worldwide audience, many of whom, I would say 90+%, really have no real good understanding of Israel, the country, Israel, the history, because either they have bad press or they believe things that are not true and such. And I want to ask you, as a Christian pastor, let's go back in time to the first time you go with this group, Kufi Christians United for Israel, to the country. And what, if you can remember one or two items that really struck you, what was it about either the atmosphere, the place, the people that said something is interesting here, more than just another country?
Well, what was interesting right off the bat back then, and Kufi has done it for years now. We started in the northern part of the country, Barry. As you know, you fly into Ben Gurion Airport in near Tel Aviv, but then we go up to the north. We go up to the Golan, we go up to the Galilee, and we spend our first few days there. So after about 4 days in the land, you're making your way to Jerusalem toward Shabbat. So around Friday afternoon, you're headed to Jerusalem, you go to the Western Wall. So by the time Sabbath comes, you're in the Holy City, and you spend kind of the bulk of your time there. The reason I mentioned that in terms of a timeline for everyone is that for me, immediately, a sense of being in the Holy Land, as I've heard it said so many times before, it's the Bible come to life. For those of you who haven't been before, Christian or Jewish, what happens is that you come to the land, and the things that you have been reading about or hearing about, you're physically there. It's no longer just I heard someone say, when you're reading it, it's like black and white. And when you're there, it's like 4K color, right? It's a completely different thing.
What a great image. You went from black and white reading about something, all of a sudden, Technicolor on a big screen.
It's there. And Barry, the many things that you're impressed with, as you know, is that it's small, right? So you hear about these lands, but Israel's enemies, for example, and we'll get into that, are right on the other side of that fence. They're right on the side of that fence. This is not some wide, spread out, wide region. This is a small region, and as it has been, and the Jewish people, they're unfortunately surrounded often by people who would rather they not be there. So I'm there, I'm experiencing it, the Sea of Galilee, all those things, and it was very kind of otherworldly, right? But the thing for me, especially, as we got closer, just as our bus approached Jerusalem on the highway, you can see the kind of the city of Jerusalem kind of up on the hill as you're coming closer and closer.
Just like it's described in the Psalms.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, I was glad when they said to me, let's go up. You're going up to the mountain of the Lord. You're going up to the house of the Lord. You're actually, as the deer pants for the water, so my soul ascends to you. So there's this ascending that actually happens. So you can see it in the distance. When we get there, Barry, to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, our tour guide leads us there. Dr. Michael Stevens, who's a Church of God in Christ pastor, wonderful man. We still work together to this day. He was our shepherd, if you will. He was kind of shepherding us through. He was on staff at Kufa at the time, and just a wonderful man of God. And saw that I was overwhelmed, because the closer we got to the city and the closer we got to the Kotel, the more emotional I became. It was very kinetic. It was very electric. It was also very humbling, all these things at the same time. Now, I heard about other people's experiences in Jerusalem. I never really tried to compare that to, I always appreciated hearing their stories. So, but I kind of went in with at the same time, a blank slate, right? I wanted to go in and just experience for myself. And it was overwhelming, Barry. So when our Dr. Stevens took the rest of the men up to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, I stayed in the back because it was too much. So I just kind of stood back there. He saw that I was kind of, emotional, and I was kind of intense. He said, "Hey, Pastor Dumisani, no problem. You stay right here. We'll come back. And you can just kind of hang out here for a moment." So I just always appreciated that about Dr. Stevens, because he was immediately aware of the fact that, and he had been doing this for a while, so I'm sure he'd seen different responses. But I can say to you, I'll end it here, Barry, seeing everything, seeing the Sea of Galilee as a Christian, walking where Jesus walked, going to the temple steps, going throughout the land. It for me, it unpacked so many different things. And I know spiritually, on a spiritual plane, it opened me up. Now, I don't want to interject this thing too. I usually don't share this part, but just hit me again. That year, 2012, no, December 2012, my father had passed away 3 months earlier. In September of 2012, my father died September the 15th. I was already slated to go to Israel, but this was the last major event of my life before going. Now, my father passed away 10 years to the day after my mother passed away, which was September the 15th, 2002. Now, for my Jewish friends and those of you who recognize the feast, you recognize that it was the same day on the Gregorian calendar, very different days on the Jewish calendar. My mom died at Yom Kippur. My dad died at Rosh Hashanah. So there was two times. My mom died at the end of the days of all. My dad died at the beginning of the days of all. And that's a whole nother message about my family, what was going on with my family, my siblings and everything. There was so much that was being unpacked there that for me, and I as a pastor eulogized both parents, right? So I had just preached my father's funeral. I'm the youngest of 7 children, a huge family. I kind of had to shoulder that responsibility. And that was the last almost spiritual gate that I had to go through before going to Jerusalem. So for me, there was all these other emotions that were there, burying my father with my siblings. All these things were going on. It reminds me, and I said this jokingly, Barry, not that I'm Abraham, but Abraham's father dies, right? And then God calls him. It's almost like I had to bury my father and then go to Jerusalem for what was the next chapter of my life. And sure enough, at the Western Wall, God says, okay, boom, which is one of the reasons why he spoke to me at the Western Wall as I can best describe it, right? I just had the strong impression to strengthen the ties between Africa and Israel and the Black and Jewish communities. So I returned home after that, and I've been doing the work of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel pretty much ever since.
I am rarely at a place without words. I want everybody to let a lot of this sink in, because some of it is very foreign to a lot of our listeners. Again, if you're privileged to be watching this and seeing Dumisani, it's much greater experience than only listening. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, thank God that we have this. It's recorded. You can go back and open it up and listen and watch and such like that. So he just described his journey as a devout Christian, working with biblical prophecy and references, having to go through certain situations in his personal life to be able to be granted that the good Lord said, okay, Dumisani, now we need you for the next chapter. Yes, and this is the ongoing saga, which is really critical, because that is part of the purpose. I'm asking this, Dumisani. That's part of the purpose of going to Israel, not just the physical land, which is great, to that unique place called the Western Wall, which is where the temple was, and to be able to have some sort of communication. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think so, Barry. I think that I have heard so many different stories from different people, different faith, Christian, even Muslim, Jewish, who've gone to that place and had what was a tremendous experience for them. Dr. John Hagee, who's the founder of Christians United for Israel, says that his journey started in 1979 at the Western Wall, right? This is decades ago. What became Kufi actually started with him at the Western Wall and God speaking to him about the Jewish people, right? So I've heard this over and over and over again. And so, I mean, not just him, but just other people, right? Others, my friend Eric Steckelbeck, some of you may know him from TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network. Great guy, a wonderful broadcaster, wonderful journalist, everything. He had a similar story. He went to the Western Wall and God touches his heart about the Jewish people, about Israel. And especially, we say for Christians, part of what I believe that journey is, everyone has their own unique journey, obviously, but part of what I believe the aspect is, when it comes to us as Christians, I can't speak for my Jewish brothers and sisters. When God is dealing with us about Israel, one of the things that he's doing is talking to us about what are the most important things to him. The Bible calls Israel the apple of his eye. God says that his eternal covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is just that eternal. So you're stepping into, among other things, that very live relationship. And so then it would make sense that God then would maybe speak to or deal with or give an impression to a Christian, for example, about something having to do with Israel. About having, for example, I'll give everyone an example scripturally.
Actually, I'm going to ask you to hold that cliffhanger. We love doing this. Now, in addition to that, we have sponsors that love our show. We wouldn't be able to do this a lot without them. We wouldn't have them on if we didn't think they're worth of your time. We're going to hear more from Pastor Dumisani right after this message. Don't go away.
Hello, skincare connoisseurs. If you think you have tried everything in skincare, you are going to love what I am about to tell you. I'm pharmacist Benjamin I. Fuchs. I'm a dermatology pharmacist. And what I've discovered in my compounding pharmacy after decades of working with patients with skin traumas and skin diseases is the missing link in skincare is topical essential nutrition. And because of this missing link, we're not maximizing the potential of topical skincare. We're leaving skin beauty and skin health on the table. And that's why I formulated my Truth Treatments. Listen, the skin's an organ. It needs and wants and craves nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and plant-derived minerals, and now it can get them in super high concentrations in my Truth Treatments. Originally formulated for dermatologists and their patients, now they're available to you. Check them out today at truthtreatments.com, and I know you are going to love the truth.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. You'd be good-looking because I was looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Dumisani Washington. He's a pastor. He's having experience at the Western Wall in the place called Israel, where there's a communication channel directly from the Lord, the creator of the universe, through the Jewish people, the eternal covenant. And he's speaking to Pastor Dumisani now. So let's hear this particular event, if you'd be so kind.
One of the most familiar scriptures in the Psalms, both in the Christian world and obviously in the Jewish world, is Psalm 122. David said, I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. This is a short psalm, but it's a description that the king gives about what Israel is, what Jerusalem is, what the house of God is. Now, again, David writes this before the actual temple is built. But again, the tabernacle of God there is in Jerusalem. God calls Jerusalem the city that he chose to place his name. He actually said this, the city of the great king. Well, one of those scriptures in that Psalm 122, as you know, Barry, is pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper that love thee. David is instructing not just the Jewish people, he's telling the nations, pray for this city. And if you do that, he says there's a blessing in it for you to do it. Now, it's interesting because, as you know, David the king often also operated in the office of prophet. They didn't give him that title specifically, but he did prophesy. David actually predicted things that came to pass, and God used him in that way. And one of the things that we see from David is this universal approach or this universal appeal of Jerusalem. That is the undivided eternal capital of the Jewish state of Israel. Yes. And it's also the place where the nations will flow to bless God. The word of God says in Isaiah that famous verse that's there at the United Nations. Unfortunately, the United Nations doesn't always listen to its own rhetoric, but actually uses the verse from Isaiah, right? Swords shall be beaten in the plowshares, spears in the pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn or study war anymore. That's from one of the great Jewish prophets, Isaiah. What does he say? He says that the nations will come to Jerusalem and there'll be peace. Peace will come as the nations come to Jerusalem. And what are they going to do? They're going to hear the words of God actually spoken by the Messiah. Now, for those who listen, Dumisani, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. No, I'm just quoting the text. The scriptures actually say this. So that if you're to go to the Western Wall right now and go there to pray and go there, I guarantee you, if you give yourself a moment, you will sense what our Jewish brothers and sisters call the divine presence. And here's what really rocks me, Barry, when I talk about that. I experienced all these things there at the Western Wall, right? All these things, my mind's just swimming. I'm just trying to make heads or tails. I know that God's presence is there, and I'm just trying to understand, right? All these things are going on, and God's presence can sometimes be overwhelming, right? So one of the things I saw on one of the placards near the Western Wall, it says, the divine presence never leaves this place. And here's the thing. The temple doesn't exist anymore. The Romans destroyed it in 70 AD, and then they changed the name from Judea to Palestine in 138 AD. I mean, this is all documented history. Yet, there at that area especially, God's presence continues to dwell. Even secular people, Mick Jagger, who's the head of the Rolling Stones, he gets off a plane in Tel Aviv to do a concert. What does he want to do? He wants to go to Jerusalem and go to the Western Wall. Now, I don't know him personally. I'm not commenting on his spirituality. What I'm saying is that even people that we would not consider, very spiritual or religious, whoever what they might be to us, or different religions. Once again, I've heard Muslims have the same experience, Jews, Christians, they go to this place where God's presence dwells, and his presence is everywhere. I'm talking about this special place where the temple was, and they can still sense. Some of them call it an energy, Barry, right? Some of them call it whatever they call it, right? The Bible calls it God's presence. That's the Shekinah, the glory of God. So I'm there, and I'm aware of some of these things, but at that moment there in 2012 during Hanukkah at the Western Wall, I'm feeling it much more so. It's, as one of my mentors used to say, it's much more in my heart, not my head. I'm not so much analyzing it in the sense of just really being there in that moment. And it was from my times there, going to the Western Wall again and again. I'm a morning person, so I love getting up in the morning. Or Bear, I would get up, grab a cab, or if I was close enough to the hotel, I would walk and go there 4 o'clock in the morning, right? It's still dark outside, but there's a few men there on the side and the women there. And I love that type of quiet. So I've been at the hotel when it's just a few of us there, and I'm a very quiet person in that sense. People wouldn't know it from my mouth, but when I'm having to do other things, I'm a very quiet person. I love being there then, and the presence of God's so powerful, Barry. And it's a reminder, and I'll land my plane here. It is a reminder of both his presence in the city that he chose and his love for Israel and the Jewish people. Again, why? That's his home. I dwell here. He said, heaven is my throne. The earth is my footstool. He said, everything is mine. He said, but I've chosen Jerusalem as my dwelling place. This was God saying this in the scriptures. And I can attest to you that this is absolutely 100% correct.
First of all, again, thanking you for being here. Thank you to harmonize and nurture kindness. Dumisani,
Yes, sir.
The communication came that you are to create healing with Africa and Israel, with the Black community and Jews in Israel. Mm-hmm. And now what we now call IBSI is being born.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
What is it as a mission statement, if a short piece, what is it that you want to accomplish with IBSI? Because let's be blunt, this is a large program.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's a multi-generational one, Jerry. And I want to say this, that even then, as I told our congregation when I got back to California, one of the ways you have a sense that maybe God's talking to you because you have no idea how you're going to do what he said, right? You're kind of like that Moses at the burning bush things, like going, gee, that sounds great. Let my people go. I don't really know how that's going to happen, but let's try. So for me, yeah, it was huge. For us, among the things that it came down to, IBSI is first and foremost an education and empowerment organization. Now, we do many things. We do events across the country. We take pastors, both African and Black American, to Israel, to the Holy Land. We took our first ambassadors group, young leaders, to both Africa and to Israel back in 2022, 23. We made a trip to South Africa, and then we made a trip to Israel the next spring as part of what we call our Peace Initiative. And PEACE is an acronym for Plan for Education, Advocacy, and Community Engagement. And so these are our young ambassadors. They're amazing. They're going to be with us as we go to Ethiopia here pretty soon. So education became the key. We found, Barry, that as we are teaching other pastors and leaders, whether they're Black American, whether they're African, let me say this off the bat, our things are never discriminated. Whenever we have an event, anybody can come. They don't need to be Black, white, Hispanic. None of that matters. We don't section it off in that way. But our messaging is specifically around the African and African diaspora, mainly because of what I explained about what happened at the hotel. It was a mandate. It wasn't so much me leaving and go, I'm going to do this. It's really me feeling, okay, God says to do this. And I will give you one example in terms of all the empowerment. What we say in our organization is that the first ever Africa-Israel summit was 3,000 years ago when the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon in the holy city, right? She travels from what the Bible calls Cush or Ethiopia, right? The Ethiopians call her Makeda, Queen Makeda, right? 3,000 years ago. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's good. I didn't know that. Very nice.
Yes. So she travels what is about 1,500 or so miles by caravan, camels. Now, this is for those who don't know, the story is recorded in 1 Kings chapter 10. So it's actually there. Both the Hebrew prophets as well as the historians in Ethiopia both record the story, just different perspectives of the same story. Right? Now, she makes this historic visit to Solomon. And in that text of things I'm telling everyone here now, at that time when she came, there was no Western Wall because Herod is the one who built the Western Wall, and Herod didn't exist yet. The temple was actually there, right? So she saw the physical temple of Solomon, right? So she saw him go in, to come out. And I say go in, ladies and gentlemen, because you have to know during that time, there were restrictions in terms of who could and could not go into certain parts of the temple. But clearly the Queen of Sheba would have seen the temple, right? That huge structure right there on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. So the Bible says that she sees all of that. She sees all of his servants. She sees his wealth, all of these things. Now, she's wealthy herself, so she's not impressed with necessarily wealth, but she's looking at his wisdom, all of these things. And she says to Solomon, Barry, similar to what I just said, she says right around verse 8 or 9 of 1 Kings 10, she says, God has given you wisdom. I'm paraphrasing now. He's given you great ability. He's caused Israel to prosper under you. She says, because God loves Israel forever. This African queen travels all the way to Jerusalem to say what I just got through saying, God loves Israel forever. That became her testimony, and that became the official relationship, as we say, between Israel and Africa. As a matter of fact, I learned from an Ethiopian priest that Solomon gave them land when they came because the caravan could have been as many as 2 miles long. She brought gold and spices and her armed guards and everything like that. This was like huge. You thought President Trump's motorcade was something. This was like an amazing, it was a city. So he gave them enough land for them to stay. And one of the priests let me know that that land was the first land that Israel ever gave to a foreign nation. This is how deep this relationship goes. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Solomon's father, David, the prophecy, he says in Psalm 68, verse 31, princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands to God. David predicts the very visit that then happens during the time of Solomon and Queen of Sheba.
So deep roots, as we say, right? And
Absolutely.
Roots was it was an important breakthrough for education for the United States of America as a television series, because it brought to bear more understanding about the African diaspora, as you say. So let's continue and talk about the United States for the moment and Black relations with Jews, just because in the United States, and I'm saying this, obviously Jewish, not Black, the Black community and the Jewish community, the way I always experienced it growing up and throughout my life, I'm now 77, was always one of mutual respect and shared experience. What do I mean? Minority, pushed aside, considered less than others.
Yes.
Even though, of course, Jews are, in quotation marks, white, didn't matter. Jews, okay, you're a minority. Blacks, even though they were a large minority, they were always considered second, third, fourth class. So there's a natural relationship, and you educated me a lot about the man who was one of the founders of Sears Roebuck. Would you be willing to tell that story?
Absolutely. So Julius Rosenwald of Sears Roebuck fame, he and his partner, I believe, is his brother-in-law. Sears goes on to become obviously the first billion-dollar corporation. Has all of its. He made much money in that industry and others, and he became one of the greatest philanthropists that the United States has ever known. And over 50% of his wealth was given to the Black American community. Right, over 50% of what he gave, and he was close friends and colleagues with Booker T. Washington. in the early 1900s. Yes, sir. Up from slavery, he was the head of Tuskegee Institute. He was the one who coined the term Negro Wall Street to mean about Black Wall Streets, whether in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or South Chicago, these types of things. Booker T. Washington was one of the elder statesmen of the Black community post-slavery. Oh, and just like Frederick Douglass, he was a slave. He was born a slave, right? Educated himself. He went to school there in Georgia. And then, of course, he becomes, again, if there was a Mount Rushmore of Black leaders, Booker T. Washington's face would probably be on for Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass and a couple of others. And so
that would be a great project.
Yes.
The Mount Rushmore
yes.
of the Negro community.
Yes, sir. You would see.
I am tingling just thinking about it. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. So when Booker T. Washington is emerging on the scene in the early 1900s, he writes his book Up from Slavery. Everything. Julius Rosenwald sees his work, and Julius Rosenwald, of course, lives in the Chicago area. Booker T. Washington is down at this point, Alabama, where Tuskegee is. But he begins to see some of his work, and they begin to work together. He has them come and speak there at the YMCA, because Julius Rosenwald was very, very instrumental in establishing YMCAs all over the country. And so their relationship started. And what happened was Booker T. Washington had an idea. Now, people have to remember, this is the early 1900s. There has been no civil rights movement. By this time, the Civil War has ended, and in less than 50 years, 1865 is when the Civil War ended, so slavery is no longer legal. However, you have millions of Black Americans who don't have access to structure, in terms of education, that type of thing, right? They now, miraculously, as we are calling on the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are forging ahead in terms of educating ourselves and building businesses and everything. But again, it's a long slog. And one of the things that Booker T. Washington does, one of the many things he does, he recognizes the need for more local schooling, because there is no school districts at this time. There is no public school system in America at this time. That's more of a relatively new thing for those who are not aware. So he has the idea of building local schools, and he approaches Julius Rosenwald, and he says, okay, would you like to help us do this? Julius Rosenwald, ingeniously, he provides equal 1/3 of the money to each community to build the school. The first third is to the Black community. The second third is actually to the municipality there, in other words, to build it. So the Black community, municipality. And then the third, he said, is supposed to come from the white community. He wanted there to be togetherness. He wanted there to be peace. So he wanted there to be a coming together. So he would provide the money that would get everything started and ensure that everything would move forward. They were what we call Rosenwald schools, and over a period of time, over 5,000 were built over decades throughout the segregated South.
5,000 schools called Rosenwald schools.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To this day, many of them still exist as national landmarks. Now, I live in North Carolina. I live in California at the time when I first started IBSI, but I'm in North Carolina now. About 2 miles from where I am is a site of a Rosenwald school. They're all throughout the South, right? And it is a testament to not just this Black-Jewish synergy, but also to a synergy that changed the trajectory of the United States of America. You had millions of former slaves who and their children who did not have regular access to schooling in that way. And Julius Rosenwald not only provided the money to build the schools, he also provided scholarships for postgraduate called Rosenwald Fellowships. And who are the recipients of Rosenwald Fellowships? People like Leontine or the other singer, the other opera singer, it's escaping me right now, Charles Drew, who was the first African-American doctor who invented how to store blood plasma. Langston Hughes, the famous poet. Even people like, I'm forgetting her name now, Maya Angelou, who by this time Rosenwald had passed away, but still she received a scholarship to go on to become one of the greatest poets that the United States has ever known. And that's just a drop in the bucket. I can name after name after name. Long after he's gone, the Rosenwald Fellowship, the Jewish philanthropy money continues to infuse the Black American community. I can go on and on and on. This was, again, mind you, decades before Dr. King is even born. He's not born until 1929. So right. Long before you get to a Dr. King and Joshua Heschel, you have these men who've actually changed the course of American history. This is what we say. We talk about the Black and Jewish synergy, not just good for two communities. It's good for the good. It's good for everyone. It winds up blessing everybody around.
Which is the essence of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jews,
Yes, sir.
and recognizing the downtrodden and not
Yes.
just reaching out,
Yes,
but
sir.
actively knowing that by being of blessing, because that's who the Jew is supposed to be, we are not just blessed, we are
Yes.
here to be a blessing, to
Yes.
activate this remarkable group of people that were put into slavery, much like Jews,
Yes, sir.
broke their bonds and allow them to flourish, which
Yes.
so the simple question is, before we go to our break, and I'd like you to think about it as we come back from the break, the answer is, so how is it that there should be not just tension, but sometimes even anger and hatred
Yes.
coming
Yes.
mostly from the Black community?
Mm.
Okay, well, let's deal with that on the other side of the break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. There's more Dumisani. He's amazing. Opportunity. What an opportunity. I'm going to use 2 4-letter words right now. Free gift. Free gift. Yes, you can have a copy of my best-selling book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, the ebook version for absolutely free. All you have to do is send an email to me, Barry, Barry, at barryshore.com. And in the heading, the subject line, just write free gift. It's as easy as that. This is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Barry at barryshore.com. You'll be glad you did. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Free gift. Do it now. Take the action. Make it happen right now. Best wishes. Bye. Good day. Beautiful bonds with beloved immortal beings and good looking people. Good looking because you're always looking for it, finding the good. Found good in abundance. His name is Dumisani Washington. He's a pastor. He had an experience going to Israel some decade and a half ago, almost decade and a half ago, and was able to have a communication that put him on a pathway to create an organization that is building positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant relationships between the African community and Israel, the state and the people, and the Black community in the United States of America. And he's just regaling us with amazing, important history, which actually changes, not as he says so eloquently, the path of America and its trajectory, all based on education and the working together of people who cared. A man named Julius Rosenwald, who started one of the greatest businesses in American history, Sears Roebuck, and the Black community in the person of Booker T. Washington. So we're just now, I'm asking Dumisani, please, how is it that relationships could go from such wonderful cooperation where there was so much goodness happening to tension and almost anger and hatred?
And I'm going to let me do this real quick. I want to close this one thing. I'm going to answer that question because there's a definite answer to that question. Just so people will know, we were talking about the Rosenwald schools in the early 1900s. In 1915 is when Booker T. Washington died, and Julius Rosenwald continued his work long after. But here's the thing: about 2 years ago, maybe less than that, Michael Bloomberg in New York just donated tens of millions of dollars to the 4 HBCU, historically Black colleges, university, medical schools, right? Why did he do that? The same thing. Michael Bloomberg says we need more Black American doctors. So he took his considerable wealth and gave it to historically Black colleges and universities for them to continue to train Black doctors in their schools, those medical schools. What's the point that I'm making? Yeah, I pointed to over 100 years ago, Julius Rosenwald. Right now, the same thing is happening. You have a Jewish philanthropist who works very closely with the Black community in terms of charter schools there in New York. And I have my daughter works for the Michael Bloomberg Foundation and everything. So she's up close and personal, sees this. So it's a tradition. And I'll tell this one story quickly, Barry. They asked Michael Bloomberg when he did that donation, why did he do it? He said when he was 10 years old, he saw his father write out a check for $50 to the NAACP. And they were poor. He says, Dad, we're not Black. He said, we don't have any money. Why are you writing $50 to the NAACP? He says, because we should help whenever we can. That's what impressed him. He goes on to become a multi-billionaire, and he does the same thing with his money that Julius Rosenwald did with his money in the early 19th. So I want to make sure I said that out loud too. This has been an ongoing thing. So now, answering your question, Jerry, which I'm sorry, I can have all the different names in my head. Barry, this is so important. Here's the thing. What began to turn, and I want to say this very carefully, I say this often, it's not that the majority of the Black community ever began to come against Israel. It was loud voices within the community that began to manipulate it in that way. Now, I want to be very, very clear about this. It's a long story, but I'll give a short version of the story. It really, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to any type of real tension where Israel or the Black and Jewish community is concerned, what cannot be missed is the issue of anti-Israel propaganda. Now, you have political things that were also part of it. You have different things like what happened in the 60s and 70s, the things like affirmative action and quotas, different things that the government was attempting to do to what it felt was rectifying past wrongs and stuff. There's a lot of flaws with those approaches, and I don't want to get into all of those details right here, but it caused there was some of the friction that was there. It wasn't the major part, but it was definitely some of it. But I want to be very, very clear. It was when, now we have the receipts for this. I didn't mention this, but I wrote a book, as you know, Barry, called, I'm doing this because another friend called Jerry, because I want to make sure I say this. Zionism in the Black Church is the name of a book that I wrote back in 2014. The second edition came out a couple of years ago, and I explained these things in that book. So for those who are interested in that, just not to much push my book, so you'll know I talk about these things in great detail. But what happened was the propaganda that we today call anti-Zionist or anti-Israel propaganda, it did have a organizational starting point, and that, ladies and gentlemen, other than the Arab League, the Arab powers that kept trying to fight and destroy Israel, was when it combined with the former Soviet Union. And it sounds like a bunch of hooey, but this is all documented evidence. The KGB is one of the ones that helped found the organization called the Palestine Liberation Organization. Why is that important? Because it was Stalin who, back in the late 40s, early 50s, when Israel becomes a nation and he sees that Israel and the United States are connected in terms of their being allies. Also, NATO is formed, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and he sees that his communist regime doesn't really have any power against the United States combined with a united Western Europe. So Stalin says to himself, how do I destroy them from the inside? I know, I'll use the oldest hatred in the world, Jew hatred. I will stir up hatred for the Jews in the Western world, like we've known in places like Russia, like we've known in other places of the world, and that will begin to be their undoing. This is a major, you have to think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me pause for a moment. Here is an enemy of Israel and the Jewish people, or enemy of the United States, first and foremost, who knows that Jew hatred is so toxic and has historically destroyed nations and civilizations that he says, I could never come against a united nuclear power United States of America, nor and with allies in Western Germany, all those other places. But if I get them to turn on each other and turn on the Jews, I will weaken them. You think of how diabolically genius that is, right? Fast forward to the 60s. They helped
the genius, unfortunately, of evil.
Yes.
Evil is, they're not stupid. It's
unfortunately, Barry, that you're 100% correct. It is unfortunately that we call the light and the dark, which is why, Barry, you spread light, because light, it illuminates, it strengthens, it encourages, it builds, and darkness does the opposite. It obscures, it hides, it does. And so this is why we're supposed to spread light. So what Stalin was doing is, how can I spread so much darkness that it begins to cover the Western powers? And that's one of the things he started to do. And KGB, when it helped found the Palestine Liberation Organization, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't about liberating. They didn't care about the Arab Palestinian people. They didn't care about any of those things. They wanted to use these issues as a bludgeon against Israel and against the United States. And why do I bring that up in terms of the Black American community? What did the KGB do? They bring on the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, under the KGB, brings on as its chairman in 1969, who? Yasser Arafat.
Wait a minute. On this note, I am loath to say these words, however.
Yes, sir.
We're coming to a close on our time together.
Yes, sir.
Now, I have 3 questions and a comment. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let me give you, first of all, during the break, I came up with an acronym for your name.
Okay.
May I share it with you?
Sure.
Dumisani, Dumisani. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Demonstrating unyielding manifestation, invoking success, awakening never-ending inspiration.
That's pretty good, Barry. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm humbled. It's not good that it's about me. Good that you're very good at that, my friend. Very good. You always have been. Always have been.
It's you.
Yes,
So I have 3 quick questions. Here we come.
Sure.
Number 1.
Yes, sir.
Will you come back again?
Absolutely. No problem.
Thank you. Number 2, my dear beloved Pastor Dumisani, you have only 80 seconds to answer this question.
Yes, sir.
What is your most fervent desire?
I have several of them, but I guess where this work is concerned, I believe that Africa and her descendants are what I call to usher the nations to Zion. I believe that what the Queen of Sheba did was a model. It was a blueprint. And so my desire is to see that happen. And as I see Jew hatred raising in the Western world, I see the need for that more than ever before. So yes.
That is wondrous and powerful and real. It will happen, not can happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Number 3.
Yes, sir.
Dumisani, may I give you a hug in front of 531,917 people around the world?
Sure, yes.
Hug stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. Here we come. 1, 2, 3. And you're listening to, of course, the Joy of Living with the humble host, Barry Shaw, the ambassador of joy, our amazing guest, Pastor Dumisani Washington. And remember, everything here really, as much how great he is, it's not about him. Fabulous Barry, not about me. It's about you. Why are you? You becoming the best you possible, learning to become more giving and open and creating more harmony, more peace, more joy, happiness in the world. And remember, utilize the 3 fundamentals of life. Love. Number 1, your life has purpose. Number 2, when you lead a purpose-driven life, you go mad, you make a difference. Number 3, use the powerful, purposeful, loving words like www. What a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Or as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in, causing rethinking. Dumisani's helped us rethinking, enabling all to excel. Shift your perspective. Keep that F in place so the other stuff happens. Shift your perspectives. You can internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever learn, which are choice, as he said here, right here. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Use 4-letter words. Remember the ones we use: love, life, hope, play, free, gift, swim, and tell the world to F you. And remember, add right away. Capital N, capital N. So you point your finger and say, what is that all about? Wait till I tell you what I heard and learned today. And it's all about peace on earth to people of goodwill. Follow the model of the Queen of Sheba. Learn to become a blessing. That is the covenant that is eternal with the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for all time. So our dear beloved Dumisani, with joy in our hearts, joy stands for journey of you. You are taking an amazing journey, dear sir, during this time of bringing more light into the world where there's darkness, and you're bringing a light by being you. So we're going to say a blessing from wonderful Pastor Dumisani and being me, Barry Shaw, the ambassador of joy. And the blessing is: go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Dumisani, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.